Well, that's interesting. Hello there. Today we're reviewing this Volkswagen Polo Mk3 facelift from the year 2000 to see what this elderly car has to offer decades after its heyday. What do you think then? Shall we start with the interior? Yeah. Right, here's the instrument cluster, which is clear and easy to read, and as we can see, it includes a clock down there. Now, the centre of the dashboard is dominated by this stereo, and look, it's got a tape player. When's the last time you saw one of those? But if you want to be modern and fancy, there is a CD changer down here as well. And actually, that stereo has reasonable sound quality, considering this is an ancient Super MIDI. But I prefer this to the stereo. Are you ready? Oh, come on. Yes, it's a pop-out cup holder, and that is absolutely perfect for my drink. There's a little tray there as well. That's for coins. Let's get rid of those for a moment, because I want to show you that the heating and ventilation controls are just down here. As for the glove box, well, it is rather small, as we can see, but there are a couple of places for drinks there too. See, that fits just fine. The ergonomics aren't great in here though. For example, when I'm in my normal driving position, which is here, I can't reach the heating and ventilation buttons without leaning forward in my seat. And also the steering wheel, even when it's moved to its highest position, rubs my knees. That's a bit over-familiar. In addition, there's not a lot of space left of the clutch pedal for my size 10 foot, so that's not particularly comfortable. And finally, while we're moaning, these buttons on the driver's armrest that operate the electric windows and central locking aren't in a particularly good spot. And the consequence of that is that when my arm is in a natural resting position, like so, and I want to operate the buttons, I have to bend my arm like this, like a contortionist, just to get to those buttons. Yeah, not ideal, so the ergonomics in this car could certainly be improved. Under the bonnet, this particular Volkswagen Polo has the 1.4 litre MPI petrol engine that produces about 60 horsepower, and that's tuned to a 5-speed manual gearbox, which is down there somewhere. As for your basic checks, well, they're all nice and accessible. This one here is the brake fluid, engine oil dipstick. That, of course, is where you top up the engine oil. This one is coolant, screen wash, and your battery just there. Good stuff. As for the gearbox, I think it's fair to say that this poor old car, which has done 136,000 miles, has a little bit of wear and tear somewhere in the system. So let's, for example, pop it into third gear, which is there. And now look how the gear stick wobbles. And it does that in all the forward gears. Poor old car. Anyway, the layout is quite conventional. So first gear is up there, second, third, fourth, fifth, and guess what? Sometimes you might want to go backwards. So from neutral, you simply push the gear knob down, like so, hard left, and then forward. And interestingly, the gear stick doesn't wobble in reverse. Right, we've moved to the back of the car now to assess the headroom, and well, it's all right. I'm about 5'10", 5'11", sitting up straight, and my hair is brushing on the ceiling. So if you're my height or less, it's okay. But if you're significantly taller than me, not ideal. As for rear legroom, well, I've moved the passenger seat forward as far as it goes, and this is what we have. Quite generous, plenty of space down there. But for contrast, I've moved the driver's seat back as far as it goes, and that is what we're dealing with. So not an awful lot there, but you could put somebody here who's small if it's a short journey. The rear seats have got some useful features too. I'll show you. Now, it's no surprise that the rear bench can split 60-40 and that the back sections can then fold flat, like so, so that items too large for the boot can extend into the cabin. A piece of furniture, for example. But look, we do not have a flat load area. Far from it, in fact, that's like a ski slope. But there is a solution. So all we have to do is remove the headrest, which I've already done, pop that somewhere safe. Down there will do nicely. And now look, we can pull up the base of the seat, like so, pop it down there into the floor well, and then, as if by magic, the back support can lie nice and flat. Good, eh? And of course it does that on both sides of the car. As for the boot, well, you have to mind your head because the tailgate doesn't open particularly high. I shall show you. Slight risk of concussion there, but as we can see, the boot is a reasonable size and certainly very deep, and that means there's plenty of room for our medium to large suitcase, which we have here. And that slides in no problem. There we are, that good sized suitcase fits absolutely fine, and we still have a decent amount of space in front and indeed down the side there for other bits and pieces. But there's more to like in here. Look at this. We have over here a 12-volt power socket, which we could use to power a tyre pump or various other bits and pieces. And there are also 5, no less, luggage tie-down points scattered around the boot, including that one just up there. Right, let's take this car for a test drive and see how it feels. Better put my glasses on. It's useful to be able to see the road, apparently. Right, in neutral. Engine on, fired up fine. This gearbox is not good. All right, no one's coming, so we are clear to go. Now, this little 1.4 litre 60 horsepower engine clearly doesn't have an awful lot of power, but around town it really feels quite responsive. Certainly all you need. Let's go around this roundabout, shall we? You could do with a little more poke at higher speeds, such as when you're on the motorway, but that's typical of old, relatively inexpensive Super Minis. Now, as for the steering, reasonably pointy and precise considering what we're driving here, but when you move it sharply, the whole car wallows. Can you see? So the body control isn't good on this thing. Part of that may be due to wear and tear, because this car, as I said, is from the year 2000. Oh, big bump in the road. And it has done 136,000 miles and change. Let's try third gear, shall we, for this hill? That's better. Now, as for the brakes, let's just say they don't particularly inspire confidence. I really have to press the brake pedal really quite hard to get it to react. Again, part of that may be wear and tear. The car does stop, but I'm not used to stamping on the pedal with both feet to get it to do so. Now, where shall we go? Left here, I think. On the brakes. All clear. They've just resurfaced this piece of road, so it's super smooth and super quiet. I like that. We're being followed by a Nissan Qashqai, who I think wants to go quicker than we are, but nonetheless we're doing the speed limit. You're going to have to wait, mate. Right, we'll go left of the roundabout. Now, as for the ride quality, hello bus, let's wait for the bus. First gear, can't see anything because of that truck. There's a Mercedes, there's a Skoda, and off we go. Is that bus going to pull in now? Don't pull in, we want to keep going. I think we're okay. So the ride quality isn't too bad. It does skip around a bit on the bumps, but you know, it's an old Super Mini. Overall though, I really quite enjoy driving this car. It's good fun, despite the notchy gearbox, despite the brakes, which I'm leaning on fairly hard now. We'll go left down here. It's just fun and unpretentious. And if all we want to do is tootle around town, we're stuck behind the bus now. Let's see if we can overtake. It's a perfectly satisfactory little car. More than satisfactory. I wouldn't mind keeping this one, but unfortunately, I can't. Got to give it back. So, how do we summarise the Volkswagen Polo Mk3 facelift? Well, clearly it's very, very dated, but nonetheless, it still has a lot going for it. Around town, it drives perfectly well. The seats are comfortable. There's a good sized boot and handy little features such as the rear seats that fold completely flat. The Polo also feels far, far better screwed together than some of its rivals and doesn't cost a fortune to run. Okay, some of the ergonomics here in the cabin aren't particularly good, but those are relatively minor criticisms of a Super Mini that, despite its age, is still a viable, pleasant vehicle to use on the modern road. Good work, Volkswagen. Anyway, that's it, but before you go, don't forget to subscribe to CarSpyTV, that makes it easier to find my other content. Can you also please do me a favour and click like on this video, and I'll see you next time, probably driving something else. Bye-bye.